Do you remember that visual novel that was in development for consoles and got canceled only for Switch due to not being brought to a functional level of quality? Well, if P-Cube can't do it, the original developer can. Future Tech Lab picked up the project and released it on the Switch without issue. At least not without issues that aren't also present in the other versions. So, let's dive into it. Here is my review of Song of Memories for the Nintendo Switch. In this game, you, the protag, are an academy student in Japan that lives alone with his adopted sister after the parents died. A lot of this story is focused on school life as their hospital-ridden friend Kanon is brought into their home, getting her back to academy and just having fun with their friends. Though at the same time, there's a deadly virus in other parts of Japan and the protag finds a weird device filled with intelligent AI girls that helps him fight off mutated monsters the group encounters from time to time. Now, I'd say this story is good, but it's not great. The first arc of the plot is about the group just goofing off and hanging out with each other. And, of course, the protag getting into unnecessarily perverted events with many of the girls. It's pretty comedic and fun for what it is, though some of the tropiness does go a bit too far. This is especially true with the Makoto character. They have virtually nothing to bring to the story outside of, hey, I'm a pervert that watches girls exercise every day in the gym and tries to create situations to see them in bikinis. But that's not to say there isn't anything good here, because there is. Many of the interactions with the girls or heroines are interesting and fun, and almost everything about the second arc is pretty good. Though grammar and script is something to talk about. This game has a lot of typos and grammatical mistakes. Most of these are fairly small, like an extra letter or weird spacing for punctuation, but some have missing or incorrect words. One scene, for example, is supposed to read, Yuno said she could hear Kanon singing, but in the game, it says, Kanon said she could hear Kanon singing. I did a bit of research on this, and all of these grammatical and script errors are also present in the PlayStation version. When it comes to gameplay, this is a visual novel with branching paths, dating sim elements, and some light RPG elements as well. As you trek through it, you'll go from scene to scene, getting frequent dialogue choices to get onto your favorite heroine's route, and going through occasional RPG-like battles. As for this version of the game, it's the same experience you're going to get on the PlayStation 4 and Steam with no changes. The lewd animated scenes are just as clear and do not appear to have been tampered with in regards to censorship. Now, if you want to get real technical, the script of this game on all platforms, going from Japanese to English, was changed a little bit, replacing the word school with academy and removing references to the characters' ages. But as far as the visuals go, nothing was changed. Moving on to main progression, this is like other visual novels, but at the same time it isn't. It mirrors other games of the genre with your typical options like auto advance, skipping text, and making dialogue choices to steer the direction towards or away from a particular heroine's route. But there's a bit more to the dialogue choices in this game than others. There are actually two different kinds of dialogue choices. You get the typical, here are the options of what you can say to this character in this moment, but you've also got choices for where to go on a certain day and pulling out one of the AI girls to talk to. This is confusing at first because you don't know who's going to show up where on what day and what AI girl corresponds to what heroine. You have to experiment around with it to see that, oh, Kanon appears here on this day and Satsuki appears in the other location. And that's where the chart system comes in. You have access to this at any time, which is a large grid of all story events to show you what you have and haven't seen, how many choices there are, and you can select a certain block of time and jump to that time frame, playing the game from there. That way, if you accidentally choose wrong and didn't save right before, you can just use the chart to jump back and try again. I like the chart system. It's really easy to use, and it's here because of how the second arc of the game works. If you want to get past the sports festival and see the real crazy stuff, it'll only unlock when you get onto someone's route. If you don't, the game just ends halfway through without explaining a lot or really going anywhere. Thankfully, some of these are pretty easy to figure out, and for the rest, guides do exist considering this game released in English about 3 years ago. And there's one more mechanic to talk about, and that's the turn-based RPG battle system. Some story events will have you encounter weird mutated monsters and you have to fight them off with the AI girls. In this mode, you take turns and can have them sing to damage the opponent. When this happens, you have to do a basic rhythm game to match buttons to the beat in order to do more damage. And I find this system kind of baffling because of how non-important it seems. It's actually pretty in-depth. There's a leveling system, so as you go through more battles, the girls will level up. Their stats will increase, you'll gain access to more skills that you can use in future battles, and the levels and stats you get will even carry over to future playthroughs. But at the same time, it feels like a really small, unimportant part of the game. The AI girls are really important to the story, but I never failed a single one of these battles, and you even have the option to skip them, having the game just conclude instantly and get you back to the story. It's a neat system, but when you're even allowed to go into the quote-unquote final boss of the game and just skip it, it kind of feels like a tacked-on combat system that wasn't needed. Now onto content and length, and there is a lot of visual novel here. My first run through the game got the joint ending without the second arc spawning, and that took me about 10 hours. I was at the 20-hour mark by the time I'd replayed and gone through Akira's true ending. Now the game has over 20 different endings ranging from normal, good, and bad, so there's a lot to dive into if you really get into this world. Plus you got little sequel and additional story snippets you get once you clear the endings. Now let's talk about the absolutely beautiful presentation of this game. We've seen VNs with animations before, like the spells from Witch and the Holy Night, and slightly moving renders from games like Caffeine. But Song of Memories takes the concept and goes crazy with it. The renders of each character in normal cutscenes are constantly moving, with lip flaps, blinking eyes, different expressions during different lines of dialogue. Everything looks so animated. Even the scenes meant to be the special CG artwork are made in a way that are constantly animated. Not only does this look beautiful, but it feels so alive. I will admit that some of the close-ups of renders in normal scenes do look a little jaggy and grainy at times, but outside of that, everything looks great. As far as performance goes, I have no issues, so let's go right into battery life. Song of Memories gets the original model 2.5 to 3 hours, the Lite gets 2.5 to 3.5, the V2 gets 5 to 6 hours, and the OLED gets 6 to 7. In conclusion, Song of Memories finally came to the Switch and offers a unique choice in charting system for its various branching paths and routes. Now on the downside, the game goes a bit too extreme with some of the tropes, there's a lot of grammatical and script errors, and the optional RPG system seems pretty unnecessary. There is a pretty decent story in there that nearly brought me to tears towards the end, but really something that I would call good, just not great. Reviews to Go rates Song of Memories for the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.